All right. Well, good evening, everyone. It is we're just around 5:30. I think we have a minute, but we'd rather be early than to be late. So I'm going to call the meeting of the Edinburgh Economic Development Corporation to order. Mr. Garza, will you call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Veronica Gonzalez.
Present.
Raul Resendez.
Present.
Dan Diaz.
Present.
Aaron Rivera.
Present.
Richard Gonzalez.
Present.
Mark Moran.
Present.
Sandra Alanis.
Present.
Everyone's here.
All right. We've got a quorum. Certification of public notice. We've had our required number of days for the posting.
Yes, ma'am. The notice was posted on September 20th at 5 o'clock.
Wonderful. Disclosure of conflict of interest. If you will see, it's not Omar that is sitting in the chair today. We have our new city attorney, Josie, and Josie's joining us today to help us with the EDC. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to be here. Under state law, local government officials are required to disclose a substantial interest for themselves or certain family members and abstain from voting on matters related to such a conflict. Are there any conflicts to disclose related to the matters pending on today's agenda?
I'm going to abstain from item 5B and also from agenda item 6C.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Public comments? Any public comments? And something that I forgot, very important, let's all stand and pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, as you'll notice under item 5, Mr. Garza has now included a consent agenda. These are things that should be fairly easy for us to approve and won't take a lot of time. Item A is approval of the minutes for the joint meeting that we held on July 16, 2024, and special board meeting held on August 26, 2024. You want us to take them all up at one time, Rodell, or separate?
Yes, ma'am.
I think since you're going to abstain, I'd recommend that you take up the items
That I'm not
altogether
gonna abstain on.
with the exception of that one item.
Okay, and then the third, item C then is consider approval of the incentive disbursement to Real LLC in the amount of $50,000. Those are the two items that do not require any abstention. Can I get a motion to approve the two items?
Motion approved.
Motion second. All in favor say aye or raise your right hand. Motion approved. Okay, so items A and C are approved. Raul, you want to take over on item B?
Can I get a motion for approval, to consider approval of sponsorship for the Boys Scouts of America Rio Grande Council?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, please raise up your right hand. Motion passes.
Right, thank you. Going to the agenda items under number 6. The first is the election of officers, president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. So members, last year at this time, I had mentioned that I had served as president for 2 years and that I was ready to pass the torch to somebody else to do it, and said, and this next year for me is a very busy one because the legislature's in session, the university, I'm required to be in Austin quite a bit, so I would not want to take on something and then be absent possibly. So while I would still like to remain a board member, of course, I would like to pass the torch on to someone else to be president. And so at this time, I would like to nominate Mr. Aaron Ronnie Rivera to be president of the board. May I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Congratulations, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you to all the board members for considering me and for lending me your support. Thank you. I want to thank also Veronica for her years of being our president. You've laid quite the foundation
Thank you.
for us, and Edinburgh is better because of you. And we're very grateful for your service.
Thank you so much, and it's been a real pleasure to do it. I appreciate the confidence that y'all have placed in me to do this, and so I will still be a voice here on this board. I just won't be in this chair. So,
Yeah,
thank you
and
so
I do want to say thank you, Veronica. I remember when she first became president, it was kind of the middle of a changing of the board, and She's like, I really don't want to do it. I said, well, you happen to be perfect for the job, and that was supposed to be a year, and so here we are 2 years later. Thank you for your leadership, your guidance, and of course, we'll still see you here every meeting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you, guys. So now we've got the vice president. I'd also like to, we have had Raul Resendez serve as our vice president for several years. He's done a great job doing it. He's gotten the gist of it now. When I haven't been able to do something, he takes over. And so I think he's doing a great job, and like to nominate him to stay on as vice president. Can I get a second on that?
Second.
I second.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion approved. All right. Secretary and Treasurer, as y'all recall, Eddie Garza moved to San Antonio, and that prompted us to have a new member. I think, Mark, you were the one in Eddie's spot, right?
I was at the ZBA.
Yeah.
The chair of
So-
the ZBA, and then, of course, like you mentioned, since
Eddie
Eddie
moved,
left
and
here
they
to San
appointed
Antonio,
Mark
then
in his
I
place.
was appointed.
And then we also had Sandra Alanis come in and took Sabrina Walker Hernandez's spot when Sabrina had to leave the board to do some work with the city of Edinburgh. So we have the two positions of secretary and treasurer open. I'd like to open that up for nominations.
Madam President, I'd like to nominate Richard Gonzalez as our new treasurer and Mark Moran as the secretary.
Okay, we've got a motion. Can we get a second on that?
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, can I get a vote? All in favor say aye or raise your right hand. Motion approved. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the
Thank
nomination.
you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so we will start with that for the next meeting. Those will be your, and of course, Mr. Garza is available at any time to learn about what your duties are, how much money you got to pay. No, I'm just kidding.
Or just get some from Richard's fund.
There you go.
We'll make it easy on you guys.
Thank you so much. They do. They make it easy for everyone. Thank you so much. Okay, item 6B, presentation of industrial development area study for the South Texas International Airport. And I think we have a guest here to do a presentation.
Thank you very much. Good evening,
Good
Madam
evening.
President and members. Appreciate you being here. My name is Chris Monroe. I'm with KSA. I have with me Andrew Wertheimer with KSA. Also, we were engaged with, through Mr. Garza to do a brief planning study at the South Texas International Airport with some adjacent land and what that might look like in terms of industrial capability in the future. I'm going to here provide a few slides, give you a high-level overview. My understanding is you've already been briefed on a lot of this information, so we'll just go through this real quickly, and feel free to stop with questions anytime. In terms of tonight, we'll look at the project purpose, some of the alternatives that we evaluated, the implementation plan, which is the overall proposed cost estimate over the time frame, and then any questions that you might have. A little backfill. In 2019, the South Texas International Airport conducted a master plan or an airport layout plan, which is the 20-year footprint for the airport. And part of that, they had a goal or an objective, their mission statement, if you will, I'm not going to highlight that, of providing a vital conduit for security, commerce, and economic development for the Rio Grande Valley of South Texas. So with this study, we're piggybacking onto that economic development portion, if you will. This is the recommended plan that came out of that study. You will see that there's a increase in the pavement for the runway, additional hangar space, and on this west side, which is what we'll be focusing on this evening, currently undeveloped, but we are looking at opportunities and options for that. In terms of our project, the purpose was to provide a path forward regarding designation of land on the west side and for implementation of utilities and various size parcels from the smallest to 5 up to the largest of whatever that actual tenant that may need that parcelization. Some of the considerations that we looked at, again, we looked at the ALP, the previous recommended plan that you saw there as our baseline from what to start with. Again, the parcels were varied from small to large to be able to accommodate what we refer to as maintenance, repair, and overhaul, which are large maintenance facilities that are provided by airlines and or other third-party services. Access to Highway 69 and 490. One of the important things to note is there is an airport drainage study that's currently being conducted and is in process, to my understanding, to help eliminate and alleviate some of the ponding and the water issues that are out at the airport due to the flatness of it. So we considered that as part of this project as well. And also we looked at where the existing utility lines are, electric, water, sewer, using that as a baseline in terms of where we could tap in at some point into the future. In terms of alternatives, we provided two various alternatives. One is the current situation where the runway is intact with no lengthening or extension. The yellow areas and the teal areas are the areas of what we've proposed, various acreage amounts. One of the things I do want to highlight is that circular area there just to the west, that is your weather reporting station. Within that confines, there's a critical area where there's elimination of anything to be constructed over there just to preclude minimization to impacting the weather reporting capability. So that area is one of the things that we also took into consideration in terms of where you could build and where you could not build. In the recommended plan, that is actually slated to be moved to a different location, thus opening this area up to potential development at some point in the future. But we wanted to make sure that we captured that in terms of what we were looking at. So that was alternative one. Alternative two, we included the maximization of the runway capability. I think this is about a 7,600 foot total length. That is, again, that's preservation, and that would at some point have to be justified to be able to be funded. But the acres are able to extend that further south. That's where those smaller parcels come in. And all the access from this is off of the highway access road there, providing opportunities to that west side. And you'll see there the drainage, the oval with the dark blue is the conduit for the drainage and the impacts of where it's going to be potentially draining to at some point into the future. So those are the two areas that we looked at in terms of what it would look like. Discussions with EDC and other individuals that were on our committee, they chose this one as one of the recommended to move forward. So it does, that AWAS critical area, that does shift further to the south, as you can see. So it opens up that area to the north there, and you'll see a set of hangars with apron space. So that area was already applied for and applicated on the recommended plan from the ALP set. So that's a duplication on this to preserve that area for that. But then it just chronologically sequences the build out of the parcels moving from north to south. And the red lines are the existing utility lines as they sit right now. In terms of the utility layout and how that would look like, we worked with our engineers in-house. This is, again, proposed layout. Anything that would be finalized would actually have to be engineered in more detail with actual surveys and what size limitations would be needed in terms of what the tenants would require. But this is an overall scope of what that would look like moving forward. In terms of the implementation, when we look at these things, we always look at them in a short, intermediate, and long-term basis, short being the 0 to 5 years, what is most imminent. So we broke that out into 3 different phases. So you'll see that phase 1, and this includes the drainage also, is approximately $22.7 million. Overall, all 3 phases would be approximate build out of $33.3 million over the long run. And again, those are going to be based on whoever approaches you as an entity in terms of what they might need in terms of water, road, access, the lease agreements that are in place. So this is just more of a preservation tool and to help facilitate where you could go with all of this moving forward. Are there any questions on the overall implementation part of that? Okay. One of the things that we did include as well is direction of EDC was to include the runway, the pavement from the previous ALP, as well as the individual hangars. Again, this is not set in stone. All of these have to be justified over the long run, and because the FAA helps fund the majority of these projects, they actually have to be tailored to a critical need, if you will. So we always put that caveat in there. But in terms of what the overall scope looks like for the airport from a pavement and the hangar construction, you can see that it's quite extensive over the 20-year timeline. And again, this does not mean that it's going to happen, but this is just, if you had unconstrained funding and you were to go out there to build today, this is exactly what it would look like. With that, short and brief, I know you've been filled in before. Any questions for Andrew or myself in terms of what we looked at or the process that we went through to evaluate the overall scope?
Did this already take into account, I guess, the funds that had been received from the state legislature last session? I think there was some money for hangar space that was,
This did not. That's a separate,
okay.
separate item.
Veronica stole my question. Yeah, there was 10 million allotted. So Eddie, this is considered for part of this plan, right? I think the 10 million, were they specifically for a runway, or was it to address some of these needs in general? Because I see 1,000 feet is 6 million, 6.5.
Right, good evening, Eddie Velarde, Director of Aviation for the city. It's a pleasure, thank you. Regarding the $10 million, for instance, actually, there's some really good news. We're imminent there. You'll see, not the next council meeting, but afterwards, you're going to see the start of us putting that $10 million to work. That has everything to do with airfield improvements and such. So it is, that under its own is airfield improvements there. So it is not associated with KSA's analysis as far as work in the west side of the airport, for instance. You had any other questions, sir?
Yeah, and so is the 10 million specifically for, it's for drainage and runway? Was it for both?
Drainage, runway, new lights, new beacon, new nav aids. Yes, sir, a lot of what we need.
And so the proposal does not reflect the 10 million at all because this is another area?
Correct, yeah. What we did was the west side, so we focused our attention, but at the direction of wanting to include what was part of the ALP previously, we included those costs just as a highlight of what magnitude you would be looking at.
Great. And another question I had is, in the scope of your work, was the elevation of our landfill at least considered in any way with your work here?
Yeah, it was not. We did not.
It was not.
No, we did factor in the new loop or the proposed anticipated loop around the city. So that in your report packing,
Correct.
draft
Yeah, I
report,
saw
that's
that.
in there.
And so far that it's going to remain like the original plan from about 10 years ago, where it's going to just land right at 490. There was a lot of talk that it was going to bypass and loop this way and that way, but good thing that council and mayor stood fast, and we were able to keep the original plan that the loop's going to come from the border all the way straight and drop off into 490. So there's going to be expansion of 490, and it'll be easy access to the airport.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Great.
And these are the estimated costs in today's time, so.
Today's dollars, right? They don't include any
We wrote the
sort
check
of
today.
Yeah, if we,
inflationary increases or any types of contingencies. It is just today's dollars based on what it would cost to, So, yeah, I mean, we all know what construction has done over the last several years, so you could probably put a factor of 2.5 on that, over the long term if you wanted to.
Yes,
I will say a lot of the hangars that are represented in there, a lot of those are typically constructed by third parties. We include those costs just as an overall overview of what it does cost to do that. A lot of the entities, they try to build those themselves, but the ROI and the amortization on them just doesn't work in their favor, so we do that for that
Right,
purpose.
and just to get an idea for the board, the extensions, extending 1,000 feet would increase what type of aircraft that could land at the airport?
Yeah, so that will, of course, it's going to be dependent on what type of justification you get on that, but that would be a mid to large size corporate type jet. I don't know if you're familiar with Gulfstreams and Challengers,
Right.
and those type of aircraft on a regular basis would be those.
And for cargo, what do we need for cargo there?
It just depends on the type of aircraft.
On how heavy
what
and how
their
big.
mission is, where they're going. Most of the cargo aircraft are 757s and higher. 57s can operate on 6 less, but typically you're going to want that 7+ range just in terms of weight and where they're going and what they're doing. And really, what we see in the runway is not necessarily the link capacity, it's the pavement strength is where the issue starts coming in, is because those aircraft weigh 150,000 pounds plus. So depending on what type of pavement strength rating you have out at the airport will facilitate exactly what type of aircraft you can get on a regular basis.
If we take, for example, a FedEx cargo plane, which they're across the street from us, what would be needed for that, as an example?
I couldn't even entertain that. It would just depend on what type of aircraft they're going to operate. I know that when we look at this, as kind of a sidebar going off on this, but we look at critical aircraft in terms of wingspan and approach speed, and they're referred to as a reference code. So we would actually have to get that reference code, figure out what the design criteria that the FAA mandates for that specific aircraft, and make sure that the airport supports that. So, and setbacks, there's safety criteria, there's other factors. Runways have to be widened, pavement strength, as
And I think that's the premise of the question. You know, why build a 2-lane road now when you're gonna need 4 in 2 years? And from a saving of money. And I think that's why the questions are being asked. We have a vast interest in getting cargo planes into our airports. That's the future. And based on costs, you know, are we doing something that's not gonna parlay future?
Right.
So this 20-year plan doesn't take that into consideration, right? On us being able to sustain a cargo plane.
Are you referring to this industrial plan, or are you referring to the master plan?
To the master plan.
Repeat your question for me then, if
Right. That, okay, so I understand this is a 20-year plan?
the master plan is?
Right.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And my question is, like Raul was saying, at what point do we start considering what we need, or what would be the cost to be able to have that type of plane?
Yeah, there's a menagerie of elements that are included in that. First would have to be the discussions and talks really with whoever the cargo carrier would be, and what their anticipating needs, and, you know, really working with you and being able to facilitate those kind of needs. And I mean,
We don't know, okay.
that's a really deep discussion between
But we have
this
to.
party and whoever the cargo service would be, so I can't really answer that question.
But I'd like to add then, foremost, it's good fortune there that KSA is doing this project there, because KSA, happy to the folk who updated our airport layout plan back in 2019, and you see that referenced in the presentation there. So there's the air cargo question is also, it's also served by the airfield, and the airfield also serves their work that they're doing. In the ALP update, we're in year number 5 of the 20-year horizon for that. In about 15 years, and we're heck bent for making sure that we achieve this there. But right now, our pavement can sustain aircraft 30,000 pounds for a single-wheel aircraft. In 15 years, we'll be able to double that. So as far as air cargo, even by those numbers there, we probably won't get wide-body, heavy aircraft that are scheduled cargo haulers. But what we can get, and even we get sooner, even under our current configuration, is the ad hoc cargo, the small aircraft that haul and make use of that cargo terminal that we have there at the airport as well. So really, you know, we're starting to beat the bushes as far as looking for folks who haul cargo. Doesn't have to be on a scheduled basis there. Our airfield configuration can serve them depending on the lighter aircraft there, but under this plan there, and like I said, 15 years, our pavement's going to be able to bear higher aircraft weights there. Then we will get the bigger executive aircraft and the lighter cargo haulers on an ad hoc basis. And again, if you remember, I worked in Brownsville, to where Brownsville lost its scheduled service. They went to Harlingen, but they still have an air cargo terminal that serves ad hoc. So there is a direct relationship between the work they're doing now and what's happening for the rest of the airport under the ALP update.
So the reason I had asked you about, is it today's numbers, today's prices, because I saw the 2019 ALP. I didn't know if these were 2019.
Those numbers, the ALP numbers are actually from the 2019 study. Yes,
Okay.
we did not redo any of those. We cut and pasted basically from that study, put them in just as an order of magnitude.
So for all we know, the cost could have been much higher today even
Correct.
from when this was
Correct,
first. Okay.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, the only thing that we created new was that phase 1, 2, and 3 that I showed you in
Okay.
terms of the utilities and the west side.
Okay.
And so, speaking of those numbers, so these estimates are pre-COVID costs?
2019, the ALP numbers are, yes.
Yeah, I think we'd like to know the real cost. as of
Pre-COVID,
today.
post-COVID, everything's pre and post, yeah.
And I would like this sent to city manager and council and mayor and council, but also, Eddie, if you could include the weights and the capacities of cargo, and keep in mind with the SH-68 timeline, because I think that's where we're all trying to make sure that we're ready for that, so that council's aware and we know what costs are coming in, and we can make sure we can be ready for that.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to pass the gavel over to Raul.
Agenda item 6C, consider approval for contribution for UTRGV athletics for fiscal year 23-24. I believe we have some guests here.
Actually, it should be 24, 25.
24, 25.
All right, good afternoon. Thank y'all for having us. It's a pleasure to be here. My name's Chase Conk. I have the privilege of serving as Vice President and Director of Athletics at UTRGV. And I hope today you share a sentiment that we're here to share some really good news about the state of UTRGV athletics and the progress that we've been making. But really want to thank you all for a long time. I've been out the institution starting my 6th year, but the EEDC in the city of Edinburgh has been an unbelievable partner for UTRGV in general, but certainly with athletics. So the things that we'll talk about today are certainly a celebration of what you guys have helped support over the last, 7, 10, 12 years and beyond that. So I believe I have a presentation. Is it logged in here? Perfect. Wonderful. Easy enough. Thank you. I'll try to go through some of the highlights, and what you have in front of you is our annual report, and that was just published here in the last few weeks. But really some good data from this past year, and I first want to start with the group of young people that you support. And these are the student athletes that represent our community, our city, our region. We had a department record GPA of a 3.35. Which is really remarkable for our student athletes. You can see a high graduation success rate, and then the academic progress rate. That's what the NCAA judges us on from a retention, eligibility, and graduation. And so a 990 is a department all-time high. For reference, a 1,000 would be a perfect APR score, as we call it. Community service, hopefully many of you have had a chance to see our young people in the community. We finished 6th in all of NCAA Division I in community service. So that's 355 plus Division I schools. Our young people finished 6th, accumulating nearly 5,000 hours. And so this is such a priority for us. We certainly ask a lot of the community to help and support, but we want our young people to know what it means to give back and truly be the face of our athletics programs. The community support has been tremendous. The charts, I think, just show the trajectory that we've been on. You can see the ticket revenue, the corporate sponsorship, which is what we're talking about today, and then fundraising, just an all-time high for us. And we get asked all the time, how are we doing what we're doing? It's because of the support that we're receiving from the community that allows us to do all of the construction and the things that we're doing for our community and our student athletes. Several of you, I know I see you out at our baseball stadium during the spring. We had an unbelievable year at the ballpark here in Edinburgh. We finished 39th in the country out of 330 Division I baseball programs in attendance. This is it's really remarkable, and it's a credit to our community. You can see there we're ahead of Louisville, Oklahoma, Baylor, Houston. That's good company to be in, and so great year for us for baseball. But overall, if you look at our attendance, we had 120,000 fans come through our gates this past year. So that's primarily with our basketball programs, our volleyball, our baseball, and our soccer programs. If you put kind of some perspective on that, about 7-8 years ago, that number would have been somewhere around 40 or 50,000. So we've seen almost a tripling of attendance in our athletic events, and that's obviously commerce that has an impact here on our community in Edinburgh. I want to talk a little bit about some of the exciting projects. If we just look right across the street here, you can see a lot of construction. The field house is one that we'll hopefully have finished here in about 7 or 8 months. But here when we open it up in summer of 2025, this is what it's going to look like. Completely renovated interior I'll show in a second, but this is the atrium, 15,000 square foot addition, really making it a Division I field when you come into our volleyball and basketball events. We have a practice gym now that we were able to convert there at the field house as well. We just opened up our new soccer and track complex. These operation centers are right off of Jackson, just south of Schuner. We've had the soccer pitch and the track there for a number of years, but we did about a $12 million investment there to build these facilities. And you can see some pictures here of some of the interior. A great shot there of baseball. We put about $3.5–4 million into our baseball stadium over the last 2.5–3 years. And you can see this is really a regular Saturday night at the ballpark right now. This is our game against UT Arlington back in the spring. Had over 6,000 in attendance for that ball game. Still left on the docket is our tennis operations center. We will start construction on this in the next few months. And then getting into football. So if you're driving north there on Sugar, just north of the baseball stadium out in left field, you'll see our construction of our Vaqueros Performance Center, 45,000 square foot facility that will house our football program. Today, our turf practice field is complete. Here in the last few weeks, our grass has been planted, so our young men are now able to practice here on campus and utilize this surface. And you can see there to the right on the screen, just south of there is where the Vaqueros Performance Center is being constructed. Here are some great interior pictures of what this facility is going to look like. It'll have everything from a weight room, sports medicine facility, academic success center, coaches' offices, team meeting space, everything that our program and our student athletes will need to be successful. And let's take a quick look at Vacker Stadium. So excited with the acquisition and certainly the support of the city and the EDC as we now have our football home as far as where we're going to play our games right here in Edinburgh. Because of the generosity of Bob and Janet Vacker, we will now play in Vacker Stadium starting August 30th of 2025. We haven't released these images yet. We're going to do it tomorrow, but I thought it was only right that I shared some of these renderings with you guys as we are now putting some $35 million into the stadium to get it ready for college football next August. You can see some pictures there of the interior of the suites, and then a great vantage point here from the suites looking out. We're also going to do a south end zone expansion, so we're going to take seating to about 12,000. The stadium currently seats about 9,700. It'll be at about 12,000 when construction is complete. We've also been working on lowering the field, and so to make the suites have a better vantage point, we're lowering the field about 5.5–6 feet, and so that'll provide some good separation there.
I was going to ask, how are the suites elevated, or no, the field is lowered?
And you can see a little bit here. There'll be a retaining wall that will wrap around, the field surface. But yeah, we'll have a much improved sight line. Great for soccer, but maybe not so good for football. So this will be great to have for our fans. On the north side, under the scoreboard, you can get a glimpse here. We're going to build a loge area. And so this is a premium area that will have 19 loge boxes and then also club seating on the second row, really making great use of what was there previously, but adding permanent seating for a premium experience. And then you can see there the south end zone expansion there, about 2,000 seats. We are very blessed at the institution with 34,000 students this fall and a record freshman enrollment. So we can't add enough student seating. We could use a lot more, but this will certainly help with the south end zone expansion. And then there's a great shot of where the Vaqueros will run out there at the 50-yard line. And I love this picture, just a beautiful shot of the stadium. Again, a wonderful facility, but the investment that we'll make over the next 10 months will get it just right for college football here in Edinburgh, Texas. So all in all, it's about $160 million in construction for athletics. That's going to take place between 2022 and 2026. All of those projects, we have one facility that we've built in McAllen at Champion Lakes Golf Course, but outside of that facility, all of that construction is happening right here in the city of Edinburgh. Our student athlete population has grown tremendously. Typically, we've had 240, 250 student athletes. Because of the addition of swim and dive and football, we have 400 student athletes this fall. And so it's an operation that has grown quickly. These young people live right here on campus or around the surrounding area of campus. And I know they're proud to call Edinburgh home. And we appreciate not just what y'all do for us, but helping our young people that come from all across the valley, all across the state, and really all across the world make Edinburgh, Texas feel like home. So thank y'all for that. I do want to quickly go through in the particulars of the sponsorship proposal for 24-25. Many of these things I mentioned earlier, and you guys know our university very well. But just a recap here of what we've talked about: 400 student athletes, 18 Division I programs. Recently joined the Southland Conference, which is actually, I think, wonderful when you talk about economics. That's 7 schools from the state of Texas, 5 from Louisiana. And so as we talk about regional competition, seeing fans come into our community as we play their team, I think we'll see a lot more of that in our new conference. I mentioned the $160 million in construction, and then we have sold out of football season ticket deposits, which is unbelievable, and what a blessing that is. So 6,000 have now been sold, and as of this morning, we had 2,000 on the wait list. And so the enthusiasm and excitement has just been tremendous.
Yeah, you know, I got more calls after you were sold out
I
than
believe it.
the past 2 years. How do we get on the list?
And you know, it's neat, right? And it sends a message not just locally, but to the rest of the country that we're serious about Division I college football. And we started selling those tickets in December of '22 at Coach Bush's press conference. You'll remember that, Dan. And it's been pretty neat to see how quickly it's gotten to this point. So very exciting, very blessed. The partnership, though, that we're talking about today is for our existing sports, right? Football doesn't kick off until 2025, so this is focused on the 24-25 year. This picture here is just from 10 days ago. We had Texas Tech here in town in volleyball. We had a sold-out crowd, almost 3,000 at the UTRGV Fieldhouse, largest crowd we've ever had in volleyball history, and we actually turned away about 400 folks at the gate. And so it was a great night bringing our students and our community together. But the signage, I'll kind of fast forward here, you can see at our baseball stadium and our soccer and track complex, and certainly at the UTRGV Fieldhouse with the addition of our LED boards, the renovations we've done on the interior, a lot of advertisement opportunities there in our current facilities. And so this recaps the current partnership here. You can see it's everything from soccer and track with baseball, Fieldhouse, which covers our volleyball, men's, women's basketball programs, tickets in the Home Plate Club, which is a new premium area. I believe the EDC enjoyed those tickets last year as well. And then vouchers to 200 vouchers to really allow the EDC to use at their discretion. And so it could be for any event with basketball, volleyball, or baseball. And then certainly tabling opportunities at our games and in our venues, and then public address announcements throughout the year, starting with soccer, running all the way through May in our baseball season. I will stop there and be happy to answer any questions.
So as an aside from this, because there's been so much interest by students and we've grown the enrollment so much, we're actually having to add a dining hall and a dorm. For those of you that went to UTPA, you know how old some of the dorms were, right? Even the new dorms are now getting old. And so there's a new dorm being built and new dining as well. So that's another investment here in the city of Edinburgh that's been made.
Yeah, very important. Thank you.
Any other questions, or, it's on C. You'll see it.
So it's just so this is the request for the 25,000. Okay.
Now, there anything different from last year, or what worked, did not, any feedback?
The baseball was actually probably the most popular, but, like he said, the 200 vouchers allows us to go to just about every sporting event. We try to give it to several of the different business people that are out there, some of our clients, and of course, board members can do the same. So sometimes we reward our city staff that is helping us in our different projects as well. So.
Chris, it says here that there's some scoreboard signage at the soccer field complex and baseball stadium. Is that going to be included for the football stadium as well?
Yes, and so this time next year, well, probably a little bit earlier than this time next year, we'll bring back concepts and ideas to the EDC for football. Yes, sir.
A quick question on the 200 vouchers and the 4 baseball home plate club tickets. Based on it seems like there was some success. If that number, should it be higher? Is that something that through higher investment, is that something that we should look at, or do you feel that these numbers are sufficient?
I think it's adequate for our needs right now.
What we're trying to, okay.
Yeah. There might be a demand for more football and that type of thing, but like Chase said, that's a different discussion later on.
Got it.
Yeah, I will say for baseball, it's very popular. Usually when they play baseball, it's 3 days in a row. So you get to pick, you get 12 seats basically on a weekend. So it's good to try and figure out what games you want to go to. And also the city has tickets, so we always kind of interchange. If everybody wants to host a company or anybody that's in the city, please just let us know.
Can we ask you for the football ticket ahead of time?
I think we're all waiting for that football ticket information.
And, you know, what's been so amazing, and this was the goal from the beginning, was really all boats to rise with the high tide that we felt football could bring to our community. And to be able to see the increased support for our current programs, I really believe football's had a big hand in that, right? It's engaging in a different way. More people, I think, are recognizing that we have great Division I competition right here. And like I mentioned, there's only 360 Division I programs in the country, and we have one right here in Edinburgh, Texas. And so to see the impact it's made across the board in sports that we've been competing in for decades, that's been really special to witness.
Right, and I will say, being on the city, I know that the city's gonna be involved, but as a sitting EDC board member, I always have to advocate for the board here. They were instrumental in contributions, so let's not forget the EDC when it comes to the seating there.
Understand. And very, very
That
grateful.
reminder is $8 million? Was that correct, Dan?
Right
Close
around
to.
there.
Yeah.
Give or take.
So please be considerate.
Oh, I will,
I will tell you that we're very proud of our collegiate sports here at Edinburgh. So, yeah, that goes a long way.
Thank you.
Great. So with that said, can we consider item 6C, approval of contribution for UTRGV athletics?
Excuse me, really quickly, due to some construction of some of these projects, I'm going to have to recuse myself.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So with that said, can we consider approval for contribution for UTRGV athletics for fiscal year 2024, 2025, the amount of $25,000?
Motion approved.
Second. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion is unanimous, passes.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
4-0, two abstentions.
Thank you all so much. Visa
Thank you,
up. We'll see
Chase.
you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chase.
Visa
Thank
upset,
you.
thank you.
she said. All right, let's go back to the agenda. Item D, consider approval of the funding request submitted by Valley Initiative for Development and Advancement, known as VIDA, for workforce development. And members, if you remember, last time that VIDA came, we were being asked on the $50,000 request. We had asked for some additional information from VIDA, which they have now provided and is in your packet. Specifically, I think we had asked how many graduates were now, oh yeah, we have a member joining us. Thank you, a guest joining us.
Sid Ramos was here last time. also.
Sid, yes, thank you, Sid, and thank you for coming back and for providing the information we had requested, which was where the graduates were going, how many of them were already employed, the wages they were making. We see those that are active, and then those that are currently under seeking employment. So thank you for, and also a few that, I think you had 2 that terminated and 2 that were on hold, but the remainder were all active and,
Right.
or had secured employment. So members, you have that in your packet if you want to look through it. There's some even good wage information that was provided as well. And then if you have any questions for Sid, he's available.
No questions. Thank you, sir, for providing this information. I know we asked you to come back, and thank you for that.
Happy to do so.
I think this is a great program, and your information proves that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, if there's no further questions, can we get a motion to approve the request by VIDA for the $50,000?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye, or raise your right hand. Motion approved. Thank you, Sid. Item E is now the LIFT fund information, and that was also another one where we were reconsidering it after having requested some information, which we have now been provided. So this was the one that we were looking for a list of the applicants who applied for the loan, those who were denied the loan, along with the reasons for denial, the location of the businesses that applied, were denied or received loan, and the amounts of the loans requested. I think in the information provided by Mr. Garza, we showed that 64 Edinburgh businesses submitted loan applications, and then it breaks them down as to how many were approved for the buy-down program or a different loan program, how many withdrew the application, and how many were ineligible. So what is your name, ma'am?
Marlene.
Marley. Thank you again for coming. Any questions for them on the information that had been requested? This is for an allocation of $100,000. If there are no questions, then can we get a motion to approve the request for the $100,000 for Lift Fund and the buy-down program?
So moved.
Motion second. All in favor, say aye or raise your right hand. Okay, motion approved. Thank you so much. And thank you for coming back and bringing the information we had requested. Appreciate that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, next items are for executive session. Can we get a motion then to enter into executive session? Move.
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Raise your right hand. Okay, it is now 6:15, and we are going into executive session. Thank you, members. Okay, it is 8:15. We are returning from executive session. Can I get a motion to enter back into open session?
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved. Second, all in favor, say aye, or raise your right hand. Okay, motion approved. Okay, we are back in open session. And after having been in executive session, I would entertain a motion to proceed as discussed on items 7A, 1, 2, 6, and 12. Can we get
So
that
moved.
motion?
Motion.
Motion second. All in favor, say aye. Raise your right hand. Okay, motion approved on 1, 2, 6, and 12. I think, is there anything further, Mr. Garza?
The only thing I would say is that maybe you might want for the record to say that we took no action in executive session.
Okay, we took no action on executive session. And I want to also thank everybody for sticking around kind of late at 8:15, but can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion, second. All in favor, say aye. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, members.